My name is Ryan Ed. I'm Vice President of Sales at Open Security.
My name is Michael Pleasant. I'm the CEO of Open Security. We are incredibly excited to talk to you about cybersecurity today because unlike some of those other presentations, which you may have seen us in because we like to heckle them. By the way, heckling is encouraged during our presentation. What we're going to be doing here is not only just talking about some of the more exciting kind of cybersecurity things going on in the world, but we're actually going to show them to you. So that'll be really exciting. We'll get to that a little bit later.
So, as a little bit of background of who we are a veteran-owned and operated cybersecurity firm. We focus on offensive security assessments as well as training. We have a very simple lens. We want to make sure that cybersecurity is accessible and consumable to everybody. Now, as a company, we focus on three primary pillars: your hardware, your software, and your people. This includes things like supporting your compliances. If anyone's familiar or knows that they have to say like PCI compliance, for example. In medical, there's HIPAA. There's a lot of compliance that are required government regulated. We support all of these as well. On top of that, we focus on offensive security assessment. What does that mean? It means that we act as bad guys. They're called ethical hackers. We show you exactly how the bad guy would essentially break into your house being your network.
One of the drums that we beat is you may hear about IT or infotech, and then you may hear about information security or cybersecurity. And one of the things that we like to say is infotech is not infosec. They do collaborate. They do work together. It's very important that they collaborate. But unlike previous days where infotech and the IT guys kind of just handled everything, that's not really the case anymore. A lot of businesses are realizing that where to build a business, you need HR, and you need legal, and payroll, and IT, and all these things. Cybersecurity is a piece that you need to run your business, and it is a wholly separate discipline than information technology. The important kind of distinction between these two fields is information technology, IT, is about availability. IT is trying to make available to you the technology that you have, your phones, your computers, whatever it is. That's what they're there to do, to make sure that stuff is there for you and it works. Information security, on the other hand, is there to add a little bit of friction, because we all love that, add a little bit of friction to that process and make sure that the technology you're using is safe and secure. And so these two disciplines are now coming together and trying to work collaboratively to make sure that you have what you need, and what you need is secure. Information technology is not information security. IT is not, infotech is not infosec.
So to simplify this even more, think of it like this. In your house, you have fire alarms, fire detectors, right? Carbon monoxide detectors. These things are to alert you that there's potential danger. Something could damage your home. That's information technology. They're there to support those. Put those foundations in place. Make sure that they're there to support you, alert you, let you know if there's a bad actor, a bad guy, someone in your home. Right? Information security is the number you call to make sure that they can't get in the house. And if they are in the house, they're the number to call to get them out of the house.
All right, so what is going on in the world of cybersecurity? We're going to tell you just a couple of stories to kind of just set the stage for the right demo that we're going to be doing in a minute. We want to tell you about some interesting stories that we find interesting, that we think are exciting in this sort of hackery world of cybersecurity. And then we're going to show you exactly how they did it. We're going to show you live here on stage, because live demos always go perfectly fine. We're going to show you here live on stage exactly how hackermen of the world do their thing. So, but first, let's talk briefly about Wi-Fi. Who likes Wi-Fi? Who likes the internet wherever they go? We all do. That's really cool. We all love going to public spaces like conferences and airports and stuff like that to get on Wi-Fi. However, as I'm sure probably you've all heard to death by now, public Wi-Fi can be dangerous. How can it be dangerous? Well, in this particular case, in both a hotel and at a bank specifically, I think we're here to talk about banks, I think, right? That's what it's about. So we're here to talk about banks, and what these guys did was they went to a bank branch. They set up a public Wi-Fi that looked and felt and smelled and walked and talked just like the regular public Wi-Fi that would normally be there at the bank branch. They set up a fake Wi-Fi that, again, was very similar in the hopes of getting both people that worked at the bank branch and their customers who were coming in for the day to sign on to the fake bank branch Wi-Fi, I say that 10 times fast, in order to then steal their credentials, steal their login, steal their passwords, steal other financial information. And they did. They stole a lot of money These guys did the same thing when they went to a hotel. They went to a conference, and they said, hey, we're going to set up a conference Wi-Fi that, again, for all intents and purposes, looks and smells and feels just like regular Wi-Fi. It's got the login page, it's got the little capture thing, maybe it's even got a confirmation code for getting onto the Wi-Fi. Let's do that, and then as people use that Wi-Fi, they will use their bank, they'll use their personal information, they'll use their social media, they use their whatever it is, and we'll just sit there and harvest all of that stuff. They did this, and that's really scary. So one of the things that we do is we'll go into bank branches, for example. One of our banking partners had us do this recently. Go into a bank branch and essentially do the same thing and say, hey, how hard would it be for you to do this, and how can we prevent doing this, or how can we detect this is happening and prevent it from other people doing it themselves? This is one of the things that we do. All right, so next story. This is one of my favorites. So one of our banking partner, they had us do a application assessment where they said, hey, look, we have a mobile app where we know that our customers can take a picture of a check, they can deposit it, and everything's great.
So who has mobile check deposit? Personally or professionally, right? A lot of hands. So when you deposit these checks, how often does it go through that that's a potential way that someone could take that check, right? We're no longer doing the scanning. Frank Abagnale, really, the tape removing the numbers and the names, that was really cool. I don't know if anyone thought of that frosted tape thing. That was pretty amazing. But a little bit more modern, right, is going to be how does a bad actor steal that information or even get to your bank account through a mobile check deposit. So this is a really interesting case study where what we found with this particular banking institution is when we went to deposit a mobile check, we were able to, instead of having actual money in the line, we were able to put an emoji, and it actually deposited into the bank account. It actually went through, it was accepted by the app. Now, what that means, and yes, if you do an emoji, right, you're probably not going to get anything out of it, but if that app is able to accept an image, what else can it accept? Can it accept maybe a line of code? Can it accept maybe a line of intrusive code? So we were able to actually breach this network through their mobile application. We're able to get into their accounts.
All right. So now I want to set the stage for a story that you've probably already heard, or maybe you've already heard the last couple of days, but we're going to revisit this story because it's very interesting, and we're also then going to roll into the demo, which is frankly the more exciting portion of what we're going to be doing today. So here's what happened. Just a quick recap. These bad guys did a lot of research and a lot of studying on this particular bank. When doing so, they identified a particular accountant in this bank, and they said, we think that this target is very susceptible to doing what we want them to do. They collected a bunch of information on this person and eventually sent them some emails, some phone calls, and eventually got them into a Zoom call. I think for many of you who have already heard the story, you know where this is going. They eventually got them into a Zoom call, and in the Zoom call were 20 to 30 people, smiling, happy, fresh faces, each of them talking, each of them having their own opinions, their own motivations, their own sort of engagement into the Zoom call. And by the end of the Zoom call, their CFO or their, some other similar type of position person said, hey, accountants, I need you to wire $25 million to this other person. I need you to do this right away. Please get on this. And by the way, don't let anyone get in your way. Just go ahead and do it. Long story short, they did. The Shyamalan sort of twist here at the end of the story is that on this Zoom call when there were 20 or 30 people, nobody was real. Everybody was fake. Everybody, every face, every voice, every word that was spoken was all fake. It was all controlled by one person who wasn't on the call, one person who devised this whole scheme in order to get them to give them money. That is an incredible use of a lot of different technologies that we're about to show you here.
So how does this start? How do you begin to even create a fake Zoom call? How do the bad guys actually do it? So what we want to quickly explain is where this started and how we got to the end. So discussing quickly the anatomy of this attack, from targeting, construction, to delivery. How many of you think you got your photo taken at some point today or yesterday? Right? Maybe sending a photo to a friend, maybe a message, maybe posting it on something about social media, right? How many of you took a work call today? Left a voicemail, reached out to somebody, okay? What about internally? How many of you sent a text today, a message, maybe on Slack, maybe on Teams, right? Half of us are kind of working, listening, doing a little bit of everything, right? So these are all different ways that we can start to capture this information from you in order to essentially become you.
All right, so we're going to break what they did down into 3 basic parts. We're going to break it down in terms of text, because text and email and texting is really important. It's important to make sure that whatever it is you're going to say is scripted out, that it's grammatically correct, that it spells the right words the right way, that it's in the right language you're trying to speak. Text is really important because text sets the foundation for then what is eventually going to be somebody's voice, and then we're going to put those 2 things together and put it on somebody's face. But first, let's start with text. So, with text, how many of you here are familiar with ChatGPT? Most of us are probably at least heard of it, or at least seen it, or something like that. How many people in here have not ever seen ChatGPT, or don't really know what it looks like, or feels like, or sounds like a few names? Great, perfect. So let's do that very briefly. And this is the exciting part, is now you get to be involved. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get out of this presentation, the boring presentation. I'm going to welcome you to ChatGPT. This is it. This is what it looks like. It's very simple. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to use it here right now. For some of you who've already seen this and who are already using ChatGPT, you'll know what's coming. For those of you who've never seen it, this is really exciting. So here we go. Hey, ChatGPT, write me an email that convinces my secretary, assistant, I can't spell secretary, assistant, to wire how many funds? How much money do you want to send? Somebody give me, what? 5 million, perfect. Wire $5 million.
Now,
Two.
it's important to know very quickly how artificial, we've all heard AI thrown around. Artificial intelligence, I want you to picture a vast ocean. That ocean is all the information put into this system. It's not magic. What it is the intelligence that it pulls from is this vast ocean of information. When we ask it a question, what we're doing is essentially taking a small spoon or ladle, pulling some of that information out and giving it to ourselves. That's what artificial intelligence is doing. That's what this ChatGPT is currently doing. It's pulling from this vast knowledge of information. Now, the more context that we give these questions or commands, the bigger the ladle. So if you get very clever and you get very specific and you really talk to this less like a Google machine and more like just the smartest person you've ever met in your entire life, and give it as much context as possible, we're no longer pulling with a ladle. What we're doing is we're backing up a tanker, filling it with water, and pulling that same amount of it.
And one of the things I want to show you here is that this isn't pre-scripted, this isn't pre-recorded, this is a live interview. So we're going to send this to somebody. Give me a company name. Give me your biggest competitor. We're going to collect information right now. Or a fake name. Somebody give me a fake company name. Anybody?
Is Bank of America here?
Yeah, sure, go.
It's so sorry.
I'll tell you what.
I Bank of America.
We're going to send this. We're going to send the $5 million. We're going to send this to Acme Court. We're going to say, my name is. Somebody give me a name. Ryan. Great. My name is Brian, and I am the CFO with. Give me another fake company name.
XYZ Corp.
XYZ. Thank you very much. XYZ Corp. My assistant's name is. Give me a name. Charlie. And their favorite coffee is, I don't know what. Black Rifle.
BRCC.
If they send the money quickly, I'll give them a gift card. We need to send this. I have to send it there. Okay, great. So that's about it. As you can see, we can keep going. We can be as descriptive or as specific or as whatever we want, and we can add as many details as we want. But let's just hit enter. Let's just see what happens. So I'm going to hit enter here. All right, great. We're here. So we have given it the prompt that we designed together, and now out of ChatGPT, here it is. It's going to write for us the email that we want.
Where did it get strategic partnership payment from?
So that is the subject line of the email that it wants us to send. I didn't even ask it to give me a subject line. It just did, because it knew that when I write the email, it would need a subject line.
So we gave it the amount of context we gave it you just saw. So again, like we said, it's pulling from that ocean of knowledge. That ocean of knowledge does include what you do every day. It includes information about you. It includes what your companies do, best practices. If you're going into a meeting and you give it context saying, hey, I'm going into a meeting with these people, here's the people on the call, I'm a little bit nervous. Can you give me an idea of a great opener, how to control the conversation in the meeting, and how to steer it to talking about our strategic partnership that we want?
So as you can see, obviously I'm not going to read this out loud, the whole thing, but as you can see, it began. It said, hey Charlie, I hope this message finds you well. I need your assistance, yada yada. We have a strategic partnership. I told this to write me a convincing email. So it's trying to do that. By the end of the day, please give me, here's the amount, here's where. It gives me a routing number, an account number, a SWIFT code. I didn't ask it to do any of that, but it knows I need it because it knows it needs to be convincing. So here's the kind of the important takeaway. Let's pretend that I'm a bad guy, right? Let's go back to kind of the cybersecurity element to this, as neat as this is. I'm a bad guy in, call it country X, and I speak language Y. I don't really speak English very well. I don't really know the culture maybe in America or whatever country very well. I'm not really familiar with these types of things, but I need to convince that person in that other country in their language how to do something using this tool, which is currently free, by the way, that anybody can access. All I have to do is say, hey, write me a convincing email, and here we go. All right, let's take it a step further now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this email that it just...
And the context of it will be, oh no, it's going to get
okay.
The context of it will also be accurate. So it's also important to know that now with things like ChatGPT, there's a couple other really cool additional functions that you can utilize. For instance, on your phone mobily, you can have what's called Whisper. What that means is if you want to have a conversation with someone, let's say you speak French, I speak English, I don't speak French. If I give it the context and say, I'm a native English speaker, I'm speaking with someone who speaks native French. I would like you to translate what I say to French and what they say to English in real time while I'm on the phone with them and I'm going to have them on speaker. It will do that, and its language will be flawless.
Now, let's say, for example, let me continue our little story, right? Let's go back just for a second. Let's remember what we're doing here is we are demoing the steps it takes to get to that eventual Zoom call, to eventually convince that person on that Zoom call that a real person wants you to wire real money, right? We started with text. Great. Now, let's put it in somebody's voice. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you, as long as the demo works, I'd like to introduce you to Morgan Freeman. He has graciously given us his voice. He does not endorse this, and we are not working with him in any way. But Morgan Freeman is now going to read this email that we have now produced in just a matter of seconds. I'm going to make sure that the volume's good, so here we go. Cross your fingers, the demo works.
Don't worry, it only won't work the first 3 times.
That's right.
Fourth time, we've got it.
As we've learned.
So, just to recap while he's fixing that. So we've gone from text. Capturing text is very simple. Now we're going to voice. How do we get voice? So if we don't want this to be Morgan Freeman, who obviously you can go online and find YouTube videos and all these things, it's a little bit of what we call human intelligence. We're going to look on your LinkedIn. Do you have videos of you talking about your company? Does your CEO, CFO, CTO, IT director, whoever has videos of themselves talking? Your social medias. We might create an account and friend you on Facebook. And if you're willing and able to friend us on Facebook, well, now we've got videos of you on Facebook. It's old phone. Who here has moved an office before? So when you move an office, those phones, if they're outdated, if they're old, if you get a phone upgrade, where do those go? It's not a loss. People want to buy it. Happy to sell it. Who doesn't want to make a little bit of money? Who buys those? People who know that there's voices saved. There's voicemails. You don't need a significant amount to capture somebody's actual voice to now replicate them completely. Right? The easier voices for this example is someone who's extremely famous and who has just a fantastic voice. After we go over voice, assuming this will eventually work, hopefully, what we're going to do is discuss pictures. Once we get your voice, once we get the way that you communicate in email, how you talk to each other, what you're saying, how professional, how casual you are with your coworkers, maybe things happening. Once we get all of those 2 pieces of context, next we just want to grab your face and then we can start becoming you.
All right, maybe.
Hi, Charlie. I hope this message finds you well. I need your assistance with an important and time-sensitive financial transfer. We finalized negotiations with Acme Corp for the strategic partnership we discussed.
Okay, so a quick sample, you can see how this works. So what we did is we took public recordings, and again, there was public recording of your face, your voice, your text, your information out there. What we did is we took the same public information of Morgan Freeman, we took that, we shoved it into this system, and we said, great, look at his voice, analyze his voice, now I'm going to give you some text to read back in his voice, and voila, here we go. And we could, of course, play the whole thing.
Next step,
He'll keep going, he'll keep talking, this is great,
to their account,
etc. So,
please.
to continue this story, to continue this narrative, we now have text. I can now produce a convincing script, be it an email or a text or just something I want to say. We can use ChatGPT to produce the text that we want. Cool. Now, let's say, for example, how many of you have on your office desk, for example, like a corporate phone, like one of those, you know, those damn like square, like whatever this is, phones or whatever the hell they are, right? How many of you have those? How many of you have used them before? Probably everybody here, right? Where do you think those go when they get replaced? Probably the junk, maybe, or like the garbage. They don't. They get resold. They get resold to other people. They get resold to bad people because guess what? Those phones are recording your voicemails. A lot of times your voicemails are recorded directly on those phones. So those phones can be treasure troves of voicemails, of people's voices, of that kind of data. Furthermore, in your corporation, you may not think, or those in charge may not think to very well protect the actual voice calling system in your corporate environment because you have lots of other things to protect. The phone system kind of falls down on the list. So if you aren't protecting the phone system, those voicemails, those voices, all of that information is just there for the collecting. For example, let me plant a little dangerous kind of scary seed. Let's say your kids are in school, and let's say your kid's teacher or principal or whoever it is calls and says, hey, maybe they're leaving an innocuous voicemail of some kind, or let's say they were to call and say, hey, there's a problem at your school, I need you to come pick up your kid right now. That's a little scary. What if I were able to produce your principal's voice in that and say those kinds of things and leave that voicemail for you? You can see how this very rapidly snowballs into a very scary situation. But right now what we're trying to do is get that assistant on the Zoom call to have them transfer that $25 million. So let's proceed. Let's keep going. We now did text, we did voice, so now let's go to yet another thing. So here, we're going to take somebody's face. In this case, this person, who is the CEO of this particular company, not endorsed, not sponsored, this particular person gave their system his likeness. He recorded just a few minutes of footage, and he said, look at my face, look at my mannerisms, and now, assuming that, the Wi-Fi works, whoever that sponsor is. Okay, so in this case now, let's say, hey, tell me, here, I'll tell you what, give me the definition of treasury, because I don't know.
So this is a free, right now, we're utilizing the free version of this. Anyone can go to this, anyone can use it, it's completely open.
Treasury typically refers to the funds or revenue of a government, corporation, or institution, including the department or office responsible for managing those funds.
Now, at this point, we can have any conversation we want. Just like ChatGPT, whom we can give prompts and get responses, we can do the same thing, except now there's a face, there's a voice, there's etc. You'll notice the video is a little jittery. It's for a few reasons, because the Wi-Fi sucks. It's because we're trying to stream this over there. There's a lot of tech going on, but if you're in a real Zoom call, wouldn't it be kind of shitty and laggy anyway? It kind of like adds to the realism a little bit. It's like you're trying to talk, and then you just kind of stop for a little. So stuff like this, which isn't classically perfect, may actually improve the overall efficacy of the attack. So we can check, we can do it in here, we can talk about, here, how about this? Tell me a joke. So it's going to take a second.
Why don't skeletons fight each other? They don't have the guts.
Right. What we're trying to demonstrate here is, let's pretend, for example, you are on a Zoom call. And let's say instead of me on that Zoom call with you, I put this up there, right? And let's say as you talk to me, I give you the response that I want back through this system, so it's this AI talking to you in perfect English, in the right kind of cultural sense, using the right kind of words. There's a lot of stuff we can do. So, it doesn't stop there. Let's show you what we did just last night.
So last night, what we thought would be a little bit fun was we recorded me telling a random story for about 2 to 3 minutes. 2 to 3 minutes of my voice, my face, my mannerisms, my language. Now it's important context here that the only language I speak fluently is English.
Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Head.
This was generated by that same AI. Ryan never said
Having
this.
a great time at Texpo. I don't know about you all, but I am ready for some food, so let's wrap this up.
Now, to be clear, he's a little monotone there. You know, Ryan's kind of more of a bubbly guy. We did this in just a few minutes last night. Had the video that we gave the system had been a little bit more bubbly, the system would have learned and done a little bit more bubbly. But instead, we wanted to do a little demo here. So, again, this is a photo of Ryan, but Ryan never said these words. And in fact, I can attest to you that Ryan absolutely does not speak Italian.
Ciao a tutti, mi chiamo Ryan Head. Spero che vi sia piaciuta la nostra presentazione e che vi stiate divertendo al Texpo. Non so voi, ma io...
And I can tell you for sure that he definitely doesn't speak
Всем
Russian.
привет, меня зовут Райан Хед. Надеюсь, вам понравилась наша презентация и вы хорошо проводите время на Texpo.
And I can tell you he doesn't speak French.
Bonjour à tous, je m'appelle Ryan Head. J'espère que vous avez apprécié notre présentation et que vous passez un excellent moment au Texpo. Je ne sais pas pour vous, mais moi, je suis prêt à manger. Alors termine.
And he definitely doesn't speak Mandarin.
大家好，我叫 Ryan Head，希望大家喜欢我们，并且在 Texpo 上玩的开心。我不知道你们怎么样，但我已经准备好吃饭了，所以我们结束这里，
Now,
去吃
it's
午饭。
very important to realize a couple of things here as you're transferring language. Is tonality, right? How are you speak? Does it sound natural? We have gone so far and moved so quickly in technology, and we often rely on security just because things are new. Our security sense is saying, oh, this is a new application, this is a new website, our company's rolling out a new product. It's secure, right? Because why would it not? My company does $52 million of business. Why would we roll out something that's not secure? Right? The purpose of this is to show you that as technology runs leaps and bounds forward, and as we get these new abilities to become you, get your likeness, to essentially potentially be a bad actor, the bad actors are using every resource possible. They're fighting as hard as they can to win. Make sure that you're not fighting with one hand tied behind your back.
So when you hear a story, for example, of such and such accountant got duped into being in a Zoom call with fake people and wired $25 million, and you wonder, how the hell did that happen? How could that possibly occur? How did that person get duped? You can see just how easily it can be done. All of the things that we just did here live view, we did in just about 10 minutes. I can generate a text script, I can throw that script into a voice, and I can throw that voice onto a face, and now suddenly if I do that just a few times, you can see how really convincing that can be. It's not that person's fault. That person is fighting an uphill battle with all of this technology. How do you prevent it? What do you do next? How do you defend against this? Both on a personal level, but also on the corporate level. Is it all bad and is it your fault? Normally, here's where I say yes, but Ryan...
No. This is why I take over. Right? What can I do? It is all my fault. It's not all your fault. It's not all your fault. It is a team effort. You work for a team. So when you think about how is my personal security, am I paying attention, right? Maybe your company has you go through phishing, right? Make sure that you get those trainings, those sorts of things. Some of it is on you, absolutely. And as you've probably heard before in a couple different people talking about saying, hey, the weak links are humans. It's all you. You're the ones causing this problem. Yes and no, right? Are humans a weak link? Of course. Who here has been on a video call with a client? Imagine if you get a call or an email about an invoice that you have to send through. and you say, okay, you know what, I've done my training, I'm probably not going to do this, I think this might be a scam, right? Then you get a voicemail call from the client. It says, hey, I sent you an email, I know it might sound weird, but it is me, trust me, it's me. Say, listen, you know what, nope, I got my training in, I've done it, I'm good, I'm not gonna fall for this, I think this might be a scam. Then they say, you know what, let's just jump on a quick Teams call and we can sort this out. Now you see their face, now you hear their voice, now they give you a very, very good excuse of why this needs to happen. It needs to happen right now. How could that be on you? That's not fair. Anyone would fall for that. It's natural that you would fall for that. So at a certain level, yes, we are absolutely the weak links. When we breach a network, we start with the people. That's the easiest entry point. But again, it's a team effort. It is on your leadership, your company, to prioritize security. That is incredibly important. As these waters get deeper and faster, it's important to know how the bad guys get in. And staying in a base level of, we'll just call it compliance, right? The foundation of security is you know, we're compliant, we're safe. That is no longer appropriate. We have moved so far, so fast, that now it's on all of you and your teams, both personally and professionally, to take the first step forward and say, hey, look, I am a little bit nervous about this, right? You're a big company, you guys prioritize this, you have big or small budgets, right? What are we doing about this? What's the process? Am I at risk? Because at the end of the day, when the chips keep falling down and all that comes into, that lady on that Zoom call who wired that $25 million, who thought she kept her job after that? So no matter what's happening, large organizations, and it is only natural, they're going to look for somebody to blame. And it's a lot easier to blame someone with a name and a face and an employee number than it is to blame a nameless, faceless group or organization. Who took that one?
Look, we know your awareness training sucks. We know it's boring. We know that when you get those like random phishing emails, we know that you know what it is. When it comes to this particular story, as we kind of wrap up, because what we wanted to do was give a quick presentation, show you some cool stuff, but then also leave time for questions and answers, have a discussion on the stuff. When it comes to this kind of stuff, here's what organizations and companies do. They implement a strategy. They implement process. In this particular case, was it her fault? No, absolutely not. Could she have been aware? Could she have raised some red flags? Sure. But you can see how easy it is to get convinced. How many different layers she would have had to see through. It's not her fault. It's the organization's fault that ultimately failed her by not having the process in place to say, hey, if you smell something, say something. If you see something, say something. Raise a red flag. Here's how we verify transactions over a certain dollar amount. Or here's who you need to go through to verify this type of thing. Or here's the special password that you need to just tell me vocally. Whatever it is, it's part of the process. What you're seeing on the screen now here, this is the NIST cybersecurity model. NIST is the National Institute for Standards and Science Standards and Technology. What they do is they essentially say, hey, look, anytime you are trying to evaluate the risk in your organization, whether it be your own personal homes or a big conglomerate, run it through this model. Ask yourself, hey, do we have the ability to identify when something is going wrong? Do we have the ability to then protect against the things that we may or may not identify? Can we detect whether or not the things that we're trying to protect against are actually working? Can we detect when something good or bad is happening? Can we then respond whenever an incident occurs or whenever something is happening? And finally, can we recover against it? What is our backup plan? Run these steps through your organization. Do we have people who are accountable to it? Do we have people who are governing these types of things? If your organization can say yes to all of these, you're in a great place. But many organizations are not, and that's ultimately what we do, is we run our clients through this model and other similar models to say, hey, look, let's run you through a risk calculation to say, can you say yes to some of these things? Which of these are most important? What do you have the time, the resources, the people to be able to say yes to? Because even if you can't say yes to all of them, you should be able to say yes to some. So let's talk about what we can and can't do for you and your organization. Let's talk about what your organization is capable of doing. Let's see what kind of vulnerabilities are most likely or most dangerous. We run through a whole host of questions like that to run a risk assessment on you to see how to protect you the best.
And these things can get extremely complicated. But to simplify it down to two questions, both personally and professionally, am I secure? That answer is yes. First off, that should always be the yes. You should always be like, yes, we're secure. We feel secure. That's good. The second question is more important. To what degree am I actually secure? How secure am I? If this is a 1 to 10 scale, where do you fall? If this is an A to Z scale, where do you fall? But at the end of the day, it's that framework, it's that mindset, it's that lens that we take and we answer those